I'm really happy to be here talking about eBird today. I have been using this program now for quite a few years and have just been continually impressed and amazed by what Cornell has been doing to not only keep this thing going, but to develop it and make it more and more and more powerful. And part of my goal tonight is, if you're not, let's first find out who uses eBird in any fashion. So good, at least probably half the crowd and maybe the other half not. To try to get anybody who's looking at birds, even in the most casual way, and that means if all you do is look at your feeder but you know what you're looking at, you have to know what you're looking at. But we'll look at some tools where you really don't even have to know what you're looking at. The computer will do almost everything for you nowadays in the way of identification. But the idea is to know what the species are, and then you can report them into eBird. So some of this is going to be, most of this is going to be a walkthrough of how it works and a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. But a lot of this stuff, if you just go on the computer, go to the eBird website and click on every link and every box and every button, you will find what I'm going to talk about and even more, because we don't have time to go through everything. That's how rich this incredible program is. I first want to thank Brian Sullivan. He's one of the eBird gurus who lives in California. We made a bit of an attempt to get him up here for a 4-hour workshop. It's still not quite been worked out, but I hope we can do it, even if it's this fall or even next spring for that matter. I went to one of his workshops in Reno last May, the 4-hour workshop, where we spent 3 hours in the classroom exploring all the things that eBird can do, and then just went out the door with our mobile apps and started using it so people could, right on the fly, ask questions. Hey, this is not doing it, or it's doing something strange, what's going on? So we can really hold your hand. And we might do that workshop anyway, even if Brian can't get up here, because there are enough of us that know it. We could actually go outside and walk through it with you with your mobile app. So that would be from the mobile app. So what I want to talk about, I guess we have an hour and a half. And please, if you have questions or if you know something about eBird I don't know, there's a lot out there, so don't hesitate to raise your hand and make your comment or ask your question. So I hope we can get through a little bit about who's participating in the sort of coverage at the global level. We're going to look at data entry in a little bit of detail, and especially the mobile app. That's what I do. All you really need is your phone. It doesn't even matter if you have phone service. If you have your phone, you can do everything you need to do to report birds. We'll look a little bit at exploring data, what they're doing with this massive database that's been accumulated as far as visualizations and mapping and so on. A little bit about data quality. You've got all these people sending bird sightings in. What do they do to make sure that the data are good and realistic and reliable? They're developing more and more aspects about finding birds. Let's say you want to find a Canada goose and you don't know where to find one. Yes, then you are severely challenged. But okay, let's say you want to find a what's something interesting? Siberian accenter that was here in 1997. Then you can put that on a list, and eBird will tell you when a Siberian accenter shows up. A little bit on data analysis, which is a little different from exploring data. And then finally, just a brief bit on the Macaulay Library, where they're putting all their data images and their sound clips. And then finally, Merlin, which is the app that helps you identify the birds you're seeing that you maybe can't identify yet yourself. But after you get this, and nobody's making a penny on this book, by the way. It sounds like I'm pushing a car insurance or something, but I'm not. Everything's contributed in that baby. So I just got these data 2 days ago, so this is just really fresh. 2.73 million visitors in 2018. It's only March. And I wrote back and I said, are these unique visitors or just visits to the website? Because I've been there a million times myself. These are unique visits. 2.73 million unique visitors just in the first, not even 3 months of 2018. That shows you the enthusiasm. You can see the rest of these, almost 400,000 people have entered data. over 500 million observations, that is individual sightings of birds with a location and a time. I'm going to say one more thing about that on the next slide. 27.5 million complete checklists, that is, the people completed all the information. There's not much required, you'll see, it's pretty simple really. All these locations, 6.65 million locations, every country in the world. And this really amazes me. There are only 10,400 and some species of birds on the entire planet. And a lot of these birds are really local, really rare. They live in dangerous places or places it's almost impossible to get to. But somebody has gotten to 98.4% of the birds on Earth. Some individual somewhere has scrounged through that jungle, climbed that mountain, braved the Mideast war zones. I mean, there's all kinds of challenges to get in that percentage. And then this little number that I was not expecting is 4,000 years of citizen science given freely to this program. So if you don't think people with an interest can contribute, wow, there's nothing like it. It's absolutely stunning. So I said I was going to give you a little bit more about this. Just last week, this guy from Myanmar with his nickname is Jay, and maybe you can see his first name's just as bad. I decided to leave it off. So Jay entered the 500 millionth record last week, and it was a barn swallow. And so I got these other fun facts about barn swallows I had no idea. There are 3 million, almost 3.5 million barn swallow records in eBird. I mean, I knew they were widespread, but that's crazy. 1 in every 150 bird records in eBird is a barn swallow. I had literally blew my socks off. So I know they're on every continent. They've also been recorded in Antarctica. So if you want a bird that's just got it figured out, and of course our birds in our hemisphere are occurring all the way from Alaska. And Nancy, they're out on the Aleutians, I assume, or not?
Asian.
Yeah, yeah. So they're occurring about as far north as you can get in our hemisphere, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. Basically the same thing in the old world. Pretty cool. So here's a really zing. I didn't know they animated that until I opened it. So this just shows you the growth. I know you can't read that. So there's 2003 when they launched. No records. And they're up to whatever I said, 3. I can't remember the number on the previous slide, but all these hundreds of millions or tens of millions of records. And you can see these annual spikes. This is May, June, when everybody is out tracking all the birds that are singing and flying around and easy to see. So you get these spikes every year in the spring during the breeding activity. So here's observations. Here's the number of checklists going up pretty much together, and there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. It's going to be interesting to see. I assume this will plateau at some time, but it hasn't yet. I like to point out, before I forget, every month there's a challenge. And if you can meet the challenge, which is they're not that hard, this month is to submit 15 checklists with a photo or a sound recording attached to it. 15. If you send in 15, you get thrown into the pot. They randomly draw somebody out of that, and you win a $2,400 pair of Zeiss binoculars every month. I play this game every month. Your odds are not that bad, really. Better than slot machines or I think even blackjack. So check out the challenge. Sometimes it's easier than other times to meet the challenge. Yeah?
You might explain what they mean by eligible checklist. Because it's kind of weird, but you know, if you do one thing, it's not eligible.
Right. Eligible checklists, and I'm not sure exactly what RL is getting at, but you have to have a count of all the birds you've seen. You can't use present absence. And you have to check the other boxes, like you're recording all the birds you've seen. What else?
Yeah.
Location.
Yeah, you have to have all, well, the location's a gimme. They won't let you get in there without it. But mostly what they're looking for eligible, you can't have, you list the numbers of birds you count, but if you have one that's an X because you didn't count them, or you just saw it but you didn't count, again, you didn't count them, that's not an eligible checklist. Everything has to be counted.
Every bird has to be counted. There was, I think people are getting away from it, where you saw a flock of 100 Canada geese and you just go X, geese present. That doesn't help. They want the count. And it doesn't matter. Everything in eBird is that you're doing it to the best of your ability. So they're not expecting everybody to be perfect or genius or anything else. You're just doing the best you can. That's the bar. The other thing is on the, you can't see that probably, but it's a rated photo. So if you upload a photo, and all my photos are crappy because I'm just trying to get into the contest, you can rate your photo that gives you 5 stars. Is it a superb photo or is it a crappy photo? Mine are all crappy. I don't care. It gets me into the contest. I already have the binoculars, but I want another pair. This is just one of the facts, and I'll show you what's coming up for the Global Big Day this year. This is from 2015. This is one of the several different events that eBird champions, trying to basically sort of see all of the birds in the world in one day. So they try to get everybody to go out and bird their brains out for that day. And in 2015, they got 6,088 species. Again, there's about 10,400 species on the planet. So not too bad. And they will undoubtedly break that record this year, which is on May 5th. So the idea is if you can, get out birding on May 5th, and especially go to a place that not everybody else is going to. If you go to Hyatt Lakes and report red or yellow-headed blackbirds and hooded mergansers, that's fine. But it would be even cooler to go someplace and pick up a species that maybe no one else is going to pick up.
That's kind of what I usually do, is I figure out where everybody else is going and I go somewhere
Go somewhere else, yeah. And I'm going to talk about what we call white space, white time birding a little bit later. So again, mostly I'm just going to walk through these things. So here's when you go to eBird, when I open eBird, it opens to View and Explore. I don't know why that is. That's where it's always open. Maybe that opens that way on everybody's. But there are other options up here, and we're going to look at each of them. So what you want to go to then when you're submitting data is this little button is called Submit. And when you get to Submit, the first screen that's going to open up is where did you go birding? And you can choose from your locations, find it on a map, use latitude, longitude, and there's a couple others. So let's look at each one of these. Choose from your locations is probably the thing people do most often, especially if they go bird, especially if you go bird a lot of the same places, from week to week. And so when I go to mine, all the locations where I've ever eBirded are there in a pull-down list. So here's Payette River, here's South Texas, here's Pine Flats Campground up in the Payette where we go camping, Pioneer Cemetery. Here's a place in Ethiopia where I was 2 years ago. So they're just all there. And if you're just back in one of the same place, you pull it down and you go, bink, I was at my favorite campground. Another way to do it, and this is a good way to go if you're in an area where you know people have been birding but you're not too familiar with it, is find it on a map. Now the example I've got here from Brian is Sapsucker Woods. That's where the Cornell Lab of Ornithology is. So the map that comes up in this example then shows you this map of, here's the Cornell Lab and a building right under that hotspot. And here are all the places where people have sent checklists in from around Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So you can go, oh yeah, I was right on the edge of the lake. I was right there. So just click on that. And one of the nice things about these birding hotspots, let's say you're actually standing right there. Go ahead and click on the spot that's like 10 feet away. Then you're adding your data directly to what's known about that spot. They're working on an algorithm right now to simply say, this is kind of silly maybe to have all of these right here. Let's just pull all these data into one hotspot and we'll put it there. So the point is, when you go to find it on a map, if you're near another spot, just pick the spot and then add to the cumulative data for that spot. One I use a lot when I'm traveling around in the Great Basin, where a lot of other people have not birded. In most cases, no one has ever birded anywhere I go, and I sort of seek those places out, is to use latitude and longitude. When you click that one, it says, please enter your latitude and your longitude. I still carry my little Garmin eTrex around to get my latitude and my longitude. Here's my first stop on Mud Flat Road, south of Grandview. Many of you probably know where that is. Not that spot, but you know where Mud Flat Road is. And so on this spot, here's latitude and longitude, and so I will plunk that into eBird. And it says, oh, you're right there. So here's Grandview for your orientation. Here's Mountain Home Air Force Base. So here's Mud Flat Road. You can't see it on this. You zoom in, you can see the road. So I'm right there. And then if it's a new spot, you can give it whatever name you like. And then that becomes one of your locations, and it goes into the database with your name. And I have some really stupid ones like parking lot and big tree. It's like, It actually doesn't really matter because eBird knows where you are on the planet. You can call it anything you want. Now, just to point out that we are at negative longitude. Negative. If you forget that and enter positive, it still will tell you where you are, or where you think you are. And here's the positive version. And it's just north of Beijing, China. So you have a look at the map and make sure you're, it says Grandview and not Jilingol or whatever that is. Now, one reason I still drag my eTrex around is because I have proximity alarms on all my stops. So I'm driving to Reno through the middle of nowhere, and I know I've got a spot where I've counted birds before out there somewhere, but I'm not going to watch my phone or my coordinates on my Garmin keep changing as I'm driving down the highway or driving across through the dirt and dodging jackrabbits, if there are any jackrabbits left, I don't know. But I can set proximity alarms on my points. So when I get within some distance, and I usually pick 0.05 miles, it rings. And I look down and go, oh, I'm at Mudflat Road number 1. I pull over, get out, and then count birds. So it's really handy for refinding sites that are just scattered out and you've sort of forgotten where they are, but you know they're on some particular route. So that's why I keep my eTrex. I told Brian that I'll get rid of my eTrex when he can put proximity alarms on the app on my phone. Then I will no longer need a dedicated GPS device. He doesn't think they're going to get to that real soon. So, but they're working on so many different projects. That's probably not a real high priority. So you've already told them where you were. Like I said, I showed you 3 ways. There's a couple other ways. You can go check that out on your own. And then how did you bird? So real basic stuff, observation date. And if you have some old notes, I've been going back through my notes from the olden days. And if I was very, very good, I have a date and a time on these lists. Sometimes I don't have a year on them. It's like, what were you thinking? So I got these notebooks that are now useless, basically. I got counts of birds, but I don't have the year. This is like from high school. So you can go back in time and enter stuff from way in the past or just today or whatever you like. Just pick the date. And then there's some options here on what type of observation it is. So the 2 really common ones are traveling, where you're walking around someplace. And I'll show you how you don't have to count your distance anymore. The mobile app does it. On the mobile app, if you are hiking a trail and you're not using the mobile app, then you're going to have to estimate or go onto Google Earth or something and say, yeah, it was about 2 kilometers or whatever, 2 miles, whatever it is. Enter that. I do a lot of stationary points. That's where you just stop your car out and say, hey, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to count birds for 10 minutes, just kind of see what's here. So that's a stationary count. You can actually walk, I think, 30 or 40 steps from your vehicle, and it's still a stationary count. But if you start walking around, you got to turn it into a traveling count. So that's stationary. Then there's some special options for historical counts. So if I really wanted to enter those poorly recorded data from my high school days, there's probably a way I could get those, because I knew I was in Wisconsin, right? And I knew the decade. So there may be some way I could plunk in my swamp sparrows or whatever it is. And then another one I use once in a while, this box right here is called incidental. So this is when birding was not your primary purpose. The one I probably use most often is when I'm driving down to Mudflat Road and I'm crossing the horrible weed patch of Simcoe Road. If I see a long-billed curlew, I'll stop and record the location. So that's an incidental sighting. There's no time involved, there's no travel involved. You're not counting every bird you've seen. You're just entering, hey, I saw a long-billed curlew, at this place at this time, bank, and we're on down the road. That's incidental. And then there are several other more specialized options. Again, you can pull that down when you get home if you want to see what some of the other custom options on type might be. Then the rest is pretty straightforward. Starting time, how long did you do it? How far did you travel? How many people were in your party? That's important because, like Christmas bird count data, part of the way they use the data is effort. How much effort went into seeing that longer-billed curlew? If you had 10 people for an hour and have one curlew, that's obviously quite different from having one person at a moment having a long-billed curlew. So it adjusts the effort it takes to find that bird. You can put comments in here. I don't know how much they use or mind those comment fields, but you know, if you think something useful or interesting, I would definitely put it in there. And then finally, you get to the bird list. What did you see? Now, I like to check this box right over here, group by most likely. And that, instead of having all the birds of North America in a long line down through there, it arranges them by the birds that you have seen recently or have been seen most commonly in that area. So in this example, this is based on 184 complete checklists for Owyhee County for March 6th. So that's what people have seen. And then you're not spending so much time racing up and down, scrolling up and down the screen to find your bittern or whatever it is. So this first group is species seen on 10% or more of the checklists. I wish they would up that a little bit, make it higher, like 30%. We'll see. When you scroll down, the next thing you'll get to is a group that have been seen between 0, that is greater than 0, and 10%. Then you get those species. And at the very bottom, you get this group of species and types of species, a white egret of some kind, an accipiter of some kind, that have never been reported from that location. And always, you can use this box right here to go straight to a species. And that's handy. I don't like, it takes more keystrokes to do that. If you kind of know where the species are taxonomically, you can probably get them in there faster. But if you just can't remember if swallows are before or after starlings, just start typing it in there and the list will come up and then you can just pick it. So you can enter data fairly quickly, even if you're not too familiar with the taxonomic order of species. Once you've entered the species then, here's an example. This is also from sapsucker woods, so I didn't have anything to do with it. It doesn't matter. So let's just say here's 6 snow geese. Well, you can add details to that if you want to. You can put in a note. The note here is took off from a pond. I don't think that's especially useful, but I guess they wanted to use that as an example. But you can, here's where you can add your bird pictures or your audio clips under a tab called Media, and you can just plunk them right in there. The only thing you still can't do, strangely enough, is add video. I don't know when they're going to get that fixed. I find that it's actually easier to get good video than it is to get a good still, especially if you're kind of interested in the behavior. But we'll see. I'm sure it's coming. And then here is the place where I said you have to rate your picture from excellent to crappy. And again, it doesn't matter if it's crappy as long as you call it crappy. You still can win a pair of $2,000 binoculars. Yes?
I was birding with someone, and they took the photograph, and when I moved it onto the list, it credited me.
Oh.
Because it was my list. How do you change that? Do you know how to change that?
How do you change the photo credit if it's not your photo?
You can't.
You can't. Okay, I was going to say I don't know, but now I do know. RL says you can't do it. What I would do is just put it in the comment right here. Yeah, comments about this image, photos taken by so-and-so. Was there another, yes, another question?
Are these screens from your computer, or are they from your phone?
This is all computer, all desktop. We haven't got to mobile yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be quite different on the mobile app.
Yeah.
And then down here, I just realized this is all too small to see in the back of the room, I'm sure. You can add add details. So you can add age and sex if you want to. Might be interesting if you're out on a grouse lek, 3 males and 25 females or something like that. Breeding code, I think I'll expand on that in a second. Then there's some other special ones, oiled birds and things like that. Finally, I guess I don't have that yet. Finally, when you go to submit, it's going to say, are you submitting a complete checklist? In other words, are you identifying everything to the best of your ability that you saw? Again, in contrast to I was driving down the highway and I saw an osprey and I pulled over and I entered an osprey. That's not a complete checklist. It's good data, it's fine. But they just want to know if you're identifying everything or not, that's all. There's no judgment involved in this one. And then you hit submit and then you get a little message. Usually successful. So the eBird data, the mobile entry now is quite a bit different, very different screens. And like I said, I pretty much live on this now. I've put all my little notebooks written in pencil without the date on it. It's all history now. Everything goes on my phone. And I'm heading to Africa next week for 3 weeks, and I'm going to try to put everything on my phone. It makes me nervous. Of course, if I drop my phone in the, I don't know what kind of river is over there. What's the river? Zambezi or something? Or drop myself in the Zambezi, it's all over with, and it won't matter. So this is out of date, but I want to put on there just to remind everybody that this is a global enterprise. So here you've got Spanish, I guess that's English right there, and that's possibly Chinese. I don't know any Oriental languages, but they have developed these entries for, I don't know, but probably not every language on Earth, because I know there are 80 languages just in Ethiopia. So, but a lot of languages at any rate, maybe the common ones. That's a good question for myself, for Brian. This stuff now is really new because I grabbed all this off my phone just about 2 days ago to make sure it was up to date. So there's my Android. I don't have an iPhone. That's the Android app. That's how it looks when you open it, and you can download it for free, of course. And I just love, there's no confusing how to get this thing started. It's like, some apps, especially in the old days, is like, where's the go button on this thing? Well, there's the go button right there. So again, the first thing you're going to see on your app is location. Choose a recent location. We already talked about this, but it's the same thing. Here's a pull down. There's my neighborhood. Oops, that's not my neighborhood. My neighborhood isn't on here. Okay, so here's south of Nampa. Here's Teal Lane on the east end of the refuge. Here's a brilliant one I didn't even name, unknown location. Again, it doesn't matter because eBird knows where it is. And then various other places I've been. The Grove Trailhead I go to a lot, Castle Hills Park. There's South Texas again, and so on. So I can just click on one of those and it's got my location. Again, you can choose a location from a map, just like before. And here's my neighborhood. This pops up, and I've entered eBird checklists from all these spots. If I'm standing on one of those, I'll just choose one of those, and it knows where I am. I think I already mentioned this, but just to emphasize, these hotspots are public locations that many birders can use. So you don't want to put a hotspot in your backyard. That's not the idea. But it also doesn't mean that it's a hot spot in the sense that you're going to see great birds or wonderful birds or anything else. It may be quite ordinary, maybe just Canada geese and robins, but it's public and lots of people can use it. So then you'll get these places in like our city parks, and just go ahead and click on the hotspot, as I said before, and then you add your sightings directly into that hotspot. When we look later at exploring hotspots, then you'll see all the rich data that gets accumulated for those spots.
And the other thing too that you didn't mention is that when you enter like a new spot, it'll ask if you want to make it a hotspot, a public hotspot, or a personal one.
Good point. Yeah, if you get a new spot, a new location, it'll ask you if you want to make it a hotspot or not.
So, are all locations generally public? I'm asking because I count sage-grouse, and we keep the locations confidential. No, all locations are not public. They deliberately, and you'd have to, I don't know exactly what's hidden, but I know falcon, iris are not public information because there's too many people going swiping baby falcons. Sage grouse leks might be in a similar
situation. And I'm trying to think now if when you enter it, if you can hide the location. I'm not sure. I have to look that up. But you can protect locations if you want to. I'm just not sure what all the mechanisms are. And I can get back to you on that. If anybody wants to leave me an email, I will look all these up because I want to know myself, and I'll get you the answer from Brian. But you certainly can protect, get the data in the system for use in modeling, but people don't know where you were. Now, this is one that I use quite a bit, and this doesn't show up on your desktop app because presumably you're not driving through the world with your desktop computer in your car. But on your phone, you'll get this create offline checklist. It happens a lot in the Great Basin. I presume it has happened at my other trips to Africa because there's no phone service. So when you go to try to, it doesn't know what your recent locations or what your map is because it can't access the database at eBird. So creating an offline checklist happens a lot. And what you get is this, and here's your little GPS unit. So the cool thing is these phones have a GPS unit in them, and they're really, really, really good. It's every bit as good as my Garmin. And my Galaxy's a 5, and they're now up to Model 9. They're pinpoint precise. Every time I've checked it, they're spot on. So your little GPS in your phone will spend a little bit of time trying to figure out exactly where you are. They want you to wait until this accuracy, this will keep going. Well, it won't keep going down. Sometimes it bumps up and down. You want to wait till it gets to 10 meters or less right here. Then it knows where you are on the planet. And you hit OK. Then your next option is going to be, since, again, it doesn't have access to, it knows where you are on the planet, but it can't go back to eBird and say, oh, here's the birds for this spot, because we're not communicating with eBird. So there's a couple things you can do. One is you can use a recent checklist, and I'll show you what that means in a second. And the other thing is just use full taxonomy, and I'll show you what that means. It's basically all the birds on Earth. So if you go to recent checklist, and I have not developed this yet, but here you go. Here are your directions for developing recent checklists then that live on your phone. So, for example, if I'm going to Ghana, so I could go potentially and create checklists for like a national park where the birds are well known and get that into the system. And then when I go there, I will have a recent checklist. It strikes me as way too much work. I'm not going to do that. But if you like, here are the directions. The other option, like I said, is full taxonomy, and it's all the birds on Earth. And I always get a kick out of this because the first bird is the common ostrich. I'm sitting out there in the middle of Washoe County, and I've got these options: ostrich, rhea, tinamous, these birds that are half a world away, literally. I always chuckle about it. But right up here, you can just start putting in your species name, and then you don't have to scroll through 10,400 species to find. And I think my example is common raven. And you can kind of guess at these. A lot of them are the first 2 letters of the common name. Just so guess at them, you might get right on it. So here's my common raven. And then I can just go hit that plus sign right there, and it'll go 1. If I hit it again, it'll go 2. If I hit it again, it'll go 3, and so on, increment up. One of the problems with this is, it's like, coral-billed scimitar babbler. That sounds cool. So you go online and find out what that bird looks like. And it's like, I need to go to China, or wherever that is. I don't even know where it is, somewhere in the Orient. So it can be very distracting to start looking at what the other co-ras are out there. But anyway, you can get your common raven. Let's see, what's this slide about? I forgot now. Oh yeah, record track. So this is a fairly recent development, I think just maybe 6 months or 7 months ago. So your phone will track the distance that you're walking. And I found it to be pretty accurate most of the times, but I never trust it 100%, especially in the mountains. The GPS signals you may have had this experience, will kind of bounce off of cliffs, and it'll start adding distance way beyond. You're not actually moving, but the signal's bouncing. So especially if you're up in the mountains, Silver City's terrible for some reason. It's like magnets everywhere. Get really wacky readings. So when you go to report at the end, if it says 15 miles, you know, you might want to go ahead. There's no way I walked 15 miles. That was only a mile. Yep, and manually set it to a more accurate figure. So don't trust that. Mostly it's very accurate in my experience, but not always. All right, so here we are in my north end, and I've seen 20 Canada geese, 3 wood ducks, 146 mallards. It's the same 146 mallards. One nice thing to kind of make it more efficient is this little box right here. It's a little check mark, and that basically says, just show me the birds that I've checked. And this is the way I run, so then I've got just those guys. And then there'll be robins and house finches, and if I want to keep incrementing them, they're all just sitting there. I don't have to scroll around to find my birds. Again, the search box is always up here, so you can put in those abbreviations and race to a new species if you like. So I have 20 Canada geese, and then 100 fly over. Well, you're not going to sit there and hit that plus button, right? 21, 22, 23. So if you push on Canada goose, you go to this page, and then you can just knock the number in here right off the keypad. You can also, let's see, I think I expanded all these. Yeah. You've also got Merlin now. This is relatively new. Merlin's sitting right there, so you're going, Canada goose. I'm not sure. I got to check and see if I remember what a Canada goose looks like. You click on that, and there it goes. All right. Oh, yep, they were Canada geese. And here you can put in breeding code. Usually in the spring, or May, June, July, their contest will be to add a breeding code for at least one breeding code on every checklist or something like that. So then you go in. Do I have an example? Yeah, so here are all the breeding codes. So nest with young, feeding young, carrying food, occupied nest, building a nest, agitated, probable nest, courtship, copulation, singing male, fly over. And you can plunk those breeding codes in.
Yeah, I have a problem with that one. If you, if you have, you put down in the area you were in, you have say 4 red tails and 2 nests because they're apart, but they're in the same area. And you got one pair that's just visiting the nest or checking it out, but the other pair is actually on. It only gives you the one code for one bird, and you have to put notes in indicating what the other bird was doing.
Right, and I think and when they go into contest mode with this, they say put in the highest breeding code. So if you've got a red tail feeding young, a red tail carrying nesting material, a red tail copulating, feeding young would be the highest breeding code. But that's right. It's a one size fit all. It doesn't always fit all. But then, as RL said, you've got the note, the comments field to explain to whatever degree you think is useful and helpful to everyone. And then you hit review. It'll say, are you done birding? And that means stop tracking your movement and your time. And you say, yes, stop. So once again, the first thing they want to know, are you submitting a complete checklist? Are you identifying everything you can identify to the best of your ability, yes or no? What type of count, stationary, traveling, how many observers, tells you how long. This was a little test I ran, so it was only 2 minutes. How long you've been going. And like I said, if the distance field should be right here. Oh, I got the wrong type. So if this is a traveling type, you'll also get the distance moved right here. That's where you just want to have a quick look and see, is that reasonable? So there are other ways to find locations. I find that I use these 3. I never use these others. You might find these to be more useful depending on your personal tastes and lifestyles. If you click on that, it'll give you a map. Click on that, it'll give you a list. That will allow you just to search. You say, I know I call that hotspot big tree, but I can't find it. So you can just start typing in big tree, and it'll go to that spot. And choose a nearby personal location, it will give you another list. If you've maybe named your, neighbor 1, neighbor 2, neighbor 3, or whatever, you can go in there and search for that. Okay, so now we got the data in. And there are lots and lots of ways to explore eBird. This is one of the powerhouses. of this whole program. So up here is Explore, and there are several things on the Explore page. This is not, there's a few more down here, but I didn't want to scrunch the letters down too small. Yes?
So if you are recording and you're not online, will it automatically, when you're back, like in Wi-Fi, connected to Wi-Fi or something, will it automatically upload the data?
Oh, good question. If you're making an offline checklist, that's a good question because I didn't cover that. When you get back into service on your mobile app, there's the big start button, and then one of the icons is checklists. You'll see right there, if you, let's say you had 1, you'll see a little red 1. That means there's a checklist that hasn't been entered yet. So then you press on that checklist will come up, and then you hit submit. Then it's going to say, we think, according to GPS, you were here, and it'll show you the location. You go, yeah, that's where I was. Then it'll go in. So it'll just store those. Like I said, I'm going to try this in Africa next week, and it makes me nervous. Brian Sullivan, who gave me some of these slides and who's the eBird expert, used it successfully in Peru. He was in Peru for a month without service. And who knows how many checklists he chalked up down there. Because you're supposed to start a new checklist as soon as you move. Like if you get in your car and drive even a half a mile, you should start a new list. So he undoubtedly had hundreds and hundreds of unsubmitted lists on his phone. Again, you don't want to lose your phone and or lose yourself. Oh, whoops, went too faster. So one of the ones I use a lot is simply species maps. So you go in there and you get this planet. All the gray boxes are places where people have submitted eBird checklists. That's what the gray stuff is. Look at this, around the Aleutians in Alaska, out in the ocean by Hawaii, all over the place. Well, that doesn't help too much, but it's a fun fact. So I just put in sage grouse, and so you put your species in here, and then you can put in your date here, and you can put any kind of date you want. Current year, the whole history of eBird, just last winter, just last May, whatever it is you want to look at. You put that in the date. Then you can put in a location if you want, but this is a totally zoomable, movable map, so I usually just drag it around and zoom in until I get where I want to. You can find Idaho pretty fast that way, or you can put it in here. And then for greater sage grouse, for example, you get this. And this is all the records in eBird for greater sage grouse. So every one of these purple boxes means that within that block, there are sage grouse have been sighted. The darker the color, the more records. You then can just use your mouse button to scroll in and start zooming in on this map. And as you zoom in, then you'll get here. Now here's Boise, Nampa. Now you can start to see even more closely where they are. And if you keep zooming in, you finally get to exact locations where people have seen sage grouse. If you want to click on one of these, like this one right here, it's like, what's going on there? Here's, in case you can't tell, here's Murphy, here's Silver City right here. So somebody has got a hotspot right there. So I click on that button, and then you get, was Vern, I see his name a lot. Do you know anybody?
Tennell.
Vern Tennell, his name is in there a lot. So it was Vern, here's when he saw him. And if you click on the checklist, you can see everything he saw on that day, how much time he spent, everything he sent in there. You can look and see exactly what he did. You can also go explore hotspot right here, and we'll do that in a minute.
Yeah, Vern's a deputy sheriff down in Hawaii County, so he gets around to a lot.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, that explains that. I didn't know that. I was like, wow, he sure gets out a lot. Another item that I use a lot is bar charts. When you go into bar charts, it's going to ask you to choose a location. This is a little exercise I did for the Master Naturalists down in Deer Flat a couple weeks ago. So I picked Idaho. I knew I wanted to do just the southwestern counties in Idaho for this group. Canyon, Ada, Elmore, and Owyhee counties. So I go ahead and click on those counties. And then what eBird gives you then is a list of birds that have been seen, again, over the whole history of eBird for these 4 counties. And here they are. Here's Canada goose. January through December. Very common all year round, so that gives you an idea. Tundra swan, right here, not nearly as common. Come in the spring. They're going way up to the tundra to breed, raise young. Bam, start coming back through in October. Become a little bit more common in November and then sort of disappear again. So that's what the bar charts show you. Those, I don't know, might be useful. I actually don't use them too much like that. But another thing you can do is you can pick up to 5 species off of the list here and then map their frequency of occurrence over the year. So again, for this group I picked, you probably can't read that, blue-winged teal. This is, again, the first of the year through the end of the year. So it's their annual occurrence in those 4 counties. Here's blue-winged teal right here. You see this almost can't be found, and then around April 1st, middle of April, here comes some blue-winged teal. And then they're kind of around, and then they disappear in the fall again. Green-winged teal, colors are a little bit too similar for my eyeballs from here. I think it's this one. Redhead is one of these blue lines. Anyway, you get the idea. And you can graph the occurrence, frequency of occurrence of any of the species you like, 5 at a time. So it's a little bit limiting. But if you want to just grab 5 of for some purpose, or just 1, it's pretty easy. And you can also look at them in a lot of different ways. So you can look at the frequency. That's how many checklists did they show up on. Abundance, how many were there. Birds per hour, average count, high count, total, and then bang over to the map. So as always, eBird gives you many, many options for looking at the data. One of the really cool things, and this is going to be my deepest nerdy dive into eBird data, I think, is this one right here, because we used it to build this guide, and I think Alan used it to get the bird list for for Idaho Falls. And that's the download histogram data. So if you go clear to the bottom of one of these bar chart queries that you've set up, go clear to the bottom is this little innocuous link here. And if you click on that, you get that, which is like a horrifying, unintelligible TXT. It's a text file. The nice thing is that Excel knows exactly what to do with this. And so you go to Excel and go up to data and go to data from text, accept all the default settings, just yes, 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 and it comes into an Excel spreadsheet just as pretty as you like. So here's the first week of January, second week of January, third week of January, fourth week of January, and so on through the whole year. Down here, 52 columns. Here are all the species. So we just looked at their bar graphs. These are the numbers behind the bar graphs. Well, here's all the species down through here. So if we look at wood duck, for example, what it's telling you is that 11% of the checklists submitted in that area in the first week of January had wood duck. So that's what you get here. Now for building this, can't remember oh yeah. So for building this, then you can just add up all the weeks. Okay, what's the most common bird in this area over the whole year? And you can do some averages and standardize them. And it turns out, if you standardize the data, house finch set house finch to 1, that's the most commonly seen bird year-round in this area. Second is mourning dove. So there's 98 mourning doves seen for every 100 house finches. Pretty common, for almost the same. And then you go on down through here till they start getting rarer and rarer and rarer. So down here, 27 kingfishers seen for every 100 house finches. So that's the way we did, like I said, we did this pocket guide. And we just said, give us the 100, turns out it was 99. Give us the 99 most common birds, and then we draw a line. And then you can still fool with that if you want, but at least you have a data basis for understanding what's most common. Okay, that's as deep as I'm going into numbers. Explore hotspots, if you're keen on that. Again, hotspot, a public location that many birders can use. So here's a hotspot map. The base map is really hard to read. I had to show you where Boise and Burns are. So not a lot of real raging hot spots with lots of species. This is species observed. They're going to be quite red. So a lot of these, the Intermountain West is not super species rich. If you go to the coast of Texas or coast of California or obviously into the tropics, you'll get way higher species counts. We have a lot A lot of country with not too many birds, not too many people. That's why a lot of us kind of like this part of the world. So here's a couple of hotspots. Let's look at this one. You might be able to guess what this is, southeast of Burns. So if you click on it, you zoom in. Again, these fonts are too small for displays. Malheur National Wildlife Refuge headquarters. Big surprise. Anybody who's been over there probably knew what that was. Then if you click on it, here is some more information. So here we are at the headquarters. 300 species have been seen. 1,782 checklists have been submitted from there. Very popular. You can look at bar charts. You can look at high counts. You can even get directions to the place. You can submit your own data. You can yet view more details. So let's view more details. So there are all kinds of things here, and these can be sorted in every direction you want. Basically, it shows you what species, how many, when they were seen. And in this case, I thought this was really interesting. These most recent counts from February, all from Noah Stricker, who is the author of this book, which was his big year quest a couple years ago, where he saw more bird species on the planet than anyone, and he wrote a book about it. Unfortunately, his record was broken in the next year by quite a lot. But so Noah was over there. Who knew? I had no idea he was over at Malheur in the middle of February counting. What did he see? Collared doves, flickers. Hey, sounds like my neighborhood. Pheasant, quail, starlings. Yeah. So there's all that. You can see who else has been there recently and when, how many species they saw. And then down here is the top eBirders by species, by checklists. And actually, Noah Stricker, who lives nowhere near Burns, Oregon, is now the #2 eBirder by species. And I'm sure that must annoy the dickens out of the regular Oregon birders, and they probably will try to go over there and push him off the list. I would. If I was Alan Contreras here in #3, a longtime Oregon resident, man, I'd get in there and knock Noah down. David?
He's from Eugene.
Noah's from Eugene?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Noah. Dang, you ruined my good attack on you. All right, so Noah, there's Noah. I was down at the Rio Grande Bird Festival in South Texas last fall, and had the incredible chance to go on a trip as a assistant guide. I emphasize assistant with Noah and John Dunn, for crying out loud, who is the lead author on the National Geographic Bird Guide, Birds of North America, in its 7th edition. So these are like, I'm not worthy sort of thing. I sort of stayed in the background, kept my mouth shut. Yeah, it was really fun. Great people. One of the things I really like to do, especially because we live in this great part of the world where there aren't too many people, is what we call white space, white time. It sounds like some sort of racist, white supremacist thing, but that's why we haven't made a T-shirt yet. It's like, how can we make that a T-shirt? It's like, no, we're not making that a T-shirt. That's not going to be understood. There's no context. What a white space and a white time is going birding where, we already talked about this a little bit, going birding where no one else goes birding, or when no one else goes birding. Now, if you go to Mudflat Road in June, you might see a couple other people. But I promise, if you go to Mudflat Road in the middle of November on a rainy day, you got it all yourself. And nobody's been submitting any bird records from that place at that time. That's what I enjoy doing. I see that as sort of kind of a treasure hunt, right? So like nobody ever goes there then. Well, let's go there then and see what there is. So in the Intermountain West, again, we've got all these blank spots. That means nobody has contributed checklists from these blocks. It's amazing.
Maybe change white to empty or blank.
Blank space, blank time, yeah. Okay, well, let's brainstorm that a little bit. This is actually Ken Rosenberg's terminology from Cornell, a good friend of mine, so I'll give Ken credit for that one. But I think it's a good one. Well, if you're competitive, eBird gives you all different kinds of ways to compete with everybody else. You already saw that. Noah had bumped Alan Contreras off the eBird checklist for Malheur. But now we know that's okay because Noah's from Eugene. But you can go look at these top 100 lists, and I don't care too much about these, but it's kind of, some people do, and it's kind of fun to go look. So, for example, if you look at, so this is all of North America, top eBirders and top 100 eBirders in North America. Forrest Rowland, people may recognize that name. He's I think a guide, and I don't know too much about him, but I think he's pretty famous in the bird world. So he's got 811 species in eBird, which is just about everything you can see, in the American Birding Association area. I don't think I know any of the rest of these people. John Garrett. But so here's the top. Here's the leaders. If you go over to checklists, that's a different list. So you've got some people who've sent in a lot of checklists but don't have as many species. And I'm not sure I know any of these people either. But it gives you an idea. And you can look at different years, you can look at different areas, and whatever. And if you like to be competitive, maybe you want to be the top eBirder in Idaho. It's not me, but I found out I'm number 9. So it's like, I had no idea, honestly. I was like, who's number 1? Some people know Lou. 7,155 checklists in Idaho. Are you kidding me? I mean, I bird quite a bit, and I've only got a third of his. This is already quite a bit out of date. What?
You have to step it up.
I know. It's, oh my goodness. Cheryl Zinga. A lot of people know Cheryl. Charles Swift. Jason. I mean, so if you want to be famous in a corner of the eBird world, get out there and send in some checklists. So I felt kind of bad. Well, I didn't really feel bad. Like I said, I'm not too competitive. But I thought, well, I'm only number 9 in Idaho. I wonder what I am in Nevada. Whoa, I'm number 6 in Nevada. I had no idea under the sun I was number 6 in Nevada. And you notice that all these other people in Idaho are not playing in Nevada. So that's where some of my checklists are, down there in the Great Basin. Like I said, I love to run around out there in the blank spots and see what's there. Sage sparrows and ravens. Save you the trip. So there's that. So there's top 100, and you can look in all different ways and all different places for the top of this and the top of that. One little thing, again, if you're kind of interested in your own situation, it's called My eBird. And then you go over here, and it's got how many you've got on your life list, how many you saw this year, how many you saw this month, how many checklists, how many species, and then all these species. And this, for me, is not at all current because none of my South American records are in there, none of my Mexican records are in there. So it's not very helpful for me, so I don't really care about those numbers too much. But one thing that is useful is manage my checklists right over here. So this is where all your checklists are. So here's my 2,600 and whatever it was. Actually, it's more than that because it's Nevada too. So here's 5,000 some checklists. And they're all just sitting there, right down the line. You can sort them by date, by location, by county, by state. And then if you want, so I've got 262 pages of checklists there. And if you want to, you can just dump them all into just a great, gigantic, long file if you want to scroll for some reason through all these checklists. But what's useful here, I think, and the only reason I really go to this is to view or edit. Because sometimes it's like, that thrush I put on that checklist last week from Bogus Basin, I just didn't know about that one. I went back and I listened to tapes, and no, it wasn't a Swainson's thrush, it was a hermit thrush. So you can go back in there and hit that, and then that checklist will come up, and you can change it. So that allows you to tweak mistakes you've made in the past, or for some reason, right as we were leaving, then we saw 100 pine siskins, and I forgot to write it down. So you go in and you can add 100 pine siskins. So it just helps you sort of polish up your list. I don't use it too often, but it's pretty handy if you want to fix a mistake that you made. And then you can also share this. And when you go to share, it'll just say, give me the emails. And you went birding with a friend and you forgot to put their name on it or share it with them. You can go right there and share that with them. And then they'll get a note in their email that says, hey, you've got a checklist is being shared from Terry. Do you want to look at it? And you can say, no, I don't. Leave me alone. Or you can say, sure. And then when you bring in the shared checklist from somebody else, you can look at it and you say, you know what, I never did see that, I never did see those crossbills. I saw the crossbills, but he didn't. So that person can delete crossbills off that list. Again, it allows you to make your list perfectly customized to what you actually saw, what your experience was.
And the nice thing about that part too is on the share, if you didn't get a photograph of the bird and your friend did, he can put it on his share checklist and it'll show up on yours with his name on it.
With his name on it, right. So the photograph will be, so if I go in later and add a photo and it's shared, it'll pop up on the other checklist. Right. Cool, I didn't know that. A little bit about data quality. So there are a whole bunch of automated data quality filters behind the scenes. So if you enter, if you enter a dog bird, it's going to say, what? But let's say you enter a cat bird and you have an odd count or odd time of year, odd number, something like that, then it'll come back and say, this is not typical. And I'll show you some examples of what you get. This is not typical. Could you please explain, give us some more information, give us a photo, something, because we're not quite buying what you've got. I found some of these filters are not that great, again, for the Great Basin. I mean, I got flagged a couple times for like loggerhead shrikes in early spring. It's like, but yeah, there are loggerhead shrikes here. We always see loggerhead shrikes. So some of the filters need to be tweaked for these areas where there aren't a lot of birders. So I see it as an opportunity to help Cornell get their filters improved when I get flagged on something.
And the nice thing about that too is if you're doing the breeding code, like you saw X number of males and X number of females of any bird, but you have a total number and the two numbers don't add up, it'll flag it for you and say these numbers don't.
That's right. I've run into that as well. So it'll check your math. Your 10 females, 10 males equals 20 birds. Thank you. But yeah, so even simple things, you know, they don't want errors, too many errors creeping in. There's going to be some. So again, they check these. If you're on the mobile app, this is what I run into once in a while. I know you can't read this. So I'm out walking down my street and I enter Mandarin duck. So I get this message: rare bird alert. You've selected a bird that is not on the local eBird checklist, which often means that it is exceptionally rare in this location. Please be sure you want to report this bird. And so that helps you, like if you accidentally hit Somali ostrich, and it's like, bah, I got my gloves on, sorry, you know, then you can undo and delete and clear and all that. But if you did see a Mandarin duck, then you can say, okay, and then it's going to ask you for some evidence. The other thing you can do is, and I ran into this with this species actually, last spring sometime I had like 18 red-breasted nuthatches in my neighborhood and I got this flag. And it just simply says, this is way more red-breasted nuthatches than been reported for this date and this location. Are you sure you know what you're doing, sort of thing. And depending on how weird it is, you may be able to just say, yeah, they've been increasing. I've been seeing them a lot. Look at my previous checklists. That's what I did for red-breasted nuthatch. I made up 50, by the way. That it wasn't 50. But I needed to get this flag to come up. Now, my very favorite thing, if you send in something really crazy, you'll get a note from somebody like from Lou Ulrey, who's the one of the Checkbird eBird reviewers from this part of the world. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it goes something like this. Dear Terry, we here at eBird deeply appreciate your contributions to eBird. Your dedication and skills are very highly valued. You are a model in your community, a light in the darkness, and a truly magnificent human being. We love you very much and wish we could be like you. But, so they go out of their way not to piss you off or make it seem like they don't really, truly appreciate what you're doing. They really do. So they're very, very gracious about this, and then they'll say, could you give us some more evidence, please? Because otherwise, what they'll do, they'll say, and then if you give them an evidence and you don't have a photograph or something that's very unusual, they will say, well, you can keep this on your personal eBird list, but we're not putting it in the big database because we don't believe you, basically, right? So you can keep it, and then maybe you want to go back and get a picture, or maybe you'll see it again, and then you go, man, I got to I got to pay closer attention. I got to do better to document these rarities because I really did see this thing, and it really needs to be in the database.
Some reviewers I found, they don't just reject the problem bird, they'll reject the whole checklist.
Oh, really? Reject the whole checklist? Wow. I've never heard of that. Reject the whole checklist because you got one bird wrong?
It was one of my historical checklists before I knew I was supposed to count the birds.
Oh,
and I
I
was
see.
entering back data, and they flagged one of them, and she rejected the whole checklist.
Rejected the whole checklist.
There was no way I could prove anything.
You know, that reminds me, I have run into entering historical data. I lived in North Dakota for 7 years, and I did breeding bird surveys up there. And I was entering my old BBS data into eBird because they haven't figured out how to do that automated. And I had, it was a yellow-billed cuckoo. And of course, I put it in, and I get a note. Could you give us some more evidence about that yellow-billed cuckoo? It was like 25 years ago. It's like, no. Okay, just a few more. It's 10 after 8. I think we'll finish up ahead of time. So, species you need. I'm not a big competitive birder, as I said, and I don't really chase birds. But if you want to be notified when something cool is in the neighborhood or in the state or I guess on the planet, you can set up your target species list. So when you go over here to, I go too fast, so you click on target species, species you haven't seen, and again, you can, as always in eBird, you have so many options. So you can say, you can pick a region, a time of year, you can set custom, you can put the current month, and so, for example, here's finding birds. So for me, for Idaho, for my Idaho life list, here are 229 species that have been observed in Idaho that I do not have on my Idaho list, mainly because I've seen these birds, well, in all cases I've seen them somewhere else. And I don't particularly care that I haven't seen them in Idaho, but some people may care. So let's look at an example. Okay, I've not seen a chestnut-backed chickadee in Idaho. You know, they're all over the coast. Why do I care if I've seen them in Idaho, right? That's my thinking. But if I do care about getting that on my Idaho list, then I can go over here and click on map and go, where are these blooming chickadees in Idaho? And it's like, oh, well, they're all over the place. Even, you could drill here and see, saw a chestnut-backed chickadee right there, or that one. Is that right?
My backyard.
Your backyard. Okay, there you go. And I think you probably even told me and I didn't come over. So if I really wanted it, who knew it would be so easy?
First time on the Christmas bird count.
Okay. See, isn't it beautiful? I love it. I love it. But here's all the places you can find chestnut-backed chickadees, and that looks like a good bet right there, if you could get there. I have no idea where that is, in the middle of the jungle somewhere. And again, species you need. You can actually set up alerts, and I have not done this. When you go there, you can say, you know, basically, I want to see a chestnut-backed chickadee. And so please send me a note when somebody sees a chestnut-backed chickadee. And then when Alan put his chestnut back in, I'd get an email that says, there's a chestnut-backed chickadee over here. It was just seen. You can add it to your Idaho life list. So those are the kind of alerts. And one of the alerts Brian told me they're working on is really, I mean, this is really crazy. If you got your mobile device, right, and you're driving out, or you're out in somewhere out in the boondocks, or you're camping, if somebody reports a bird that you want to see, and you can set this. So let's say you set it up. So if somebody sees a bird I want to see within 50 miles of where I am, I want to know. So I could be driving to Reno and get a message. Alan just saw a chestnut-backed chickadee in Winnemucca, and that's only 20 miles from where I am. So I can just go to Winnemucca and get my chickadee. So it would be it'd be a real-time, on-the-fly alert of where you are and where a bird you need is. So they're working on that. It's like, wow.
But there's
I wouldn't
a
even.
kind of problem with that. If you have a mobile phone, it's great because you can get them every hour. It'll pop up every hour or something like that. But if you're just like me and you're not smart enough to use a smartphone because it's smarter than you can do it where you only get it once a day, usually sometime in the evening. It'll give everything.
Give you your alerts.
You're looking for once a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So good point. So if you're if you're on the mobile device and you get these alerts, they could be helpful. If you're only getting them late in the day, once you've been back, you're already back home, then maybe not quite so helpful. But that's all, set up. I don't have any. It says somewhere you're not subscribed to any alerts. I don't expect to sign up. I might do it just for fun. I got to think of something I really, really want to see that maybe comes through just occasionally, like a gyrfalcon or something like that. All right. Yes?
Is that sighting confirmed?
The gyr?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it just popped in my head because I remember seeing a question about it.
Yeah, well, no,
Some-
there was a Facebook post on
A
it.
Facebook post. I saw that, yeah. We had a big white bird in a photo, and if somebody's wherever,
Confirmed?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'd go back and check. Where was it? Was it up at Bellevue?
it was over by Pocatello.
By Pokey, okay. Yeah. I don't know if we're talking about the Idaho Birding Facebook page. If you haven't been on that, check it out. David?
That's one of the birds that they don't give you information.
Right, they don't give you locations on
Yeah. So
gyrs, peregrines, maybe even prairies. Again, because there's too many unscrupulous people that want
certain owls, yeah.
young, or they harass them no end. Yeah, certain birds. So
Well, see, also owls, some of the owls too, like that first came up when we had that great gray owl family who was being harassed by photographers up there on State Line Road and the highway up there just south of Cascade that one year. People were chasing them around to get that better picture.
yeah, great grays especially tend to get harassed pretty badly because they're so tame. They just sit and people get too close to them. Too many people too close. So some of those things maybe you don't want to report. All right. This is a point that I wanted to make about. I don't really chase birds to bump up my life list, but although I go to great length and expense. I'm going to Africa again, as I said, to get to see new birds. This Siberian accenter. Did anybody see this bird when it was over in Haley?
Yeah.
Wow, a couple people saw it. Cool. So it was over in Haley in the winter of 1997. And I'm sitting here in Boise, and it's February, and I have two friends in Phoenix, Arizona, call me about just a few hours apart. You going over to see the accenter? Nah, the roads are kind of bad. We're flying up from Arizona, and you're not going to go see it? It's only 2 hours from your house. And it's like, okay, peer pressure. I guess I better go see the Alpine or the Siberian accenter. So I took a day off work, drove over, saw the bird. It's a great bird. It's a really beautiful little bird. It was sitting on a feeder, and I went over on a Monday. Everybody was up there on a Saturday. I was looking at the reports on eBird just this afternoon. Like John Dunn, the lead author on that National Geographic Guide, he went there to see this bird. Very rare for North America. It's an old world species. So I'm up there on a Monday, and I'm the only person. I'm stumbling around this neighborhood trying to figure out where this bird is on one of the feeders. And this woman is just this little simple little house, and she's in the bathroom because it's one of those little sliding windows. It's very short. She opens the window and she goes, "It's in the front yard on the feeder." Slams it shut. She'd had way too many birders in her yard. You could tell she was burned out from the weekend. And I felt really bad, after being pressed into seeing a bird. So I went around in the front yard kind of sheepishly and looked down the feeder, and there was a Siberian accenter. So anyway, that was fun. And I called the guys and said, "Hey, I got it. I went over and I saw it." "Yeah, you better." It's like, okay. Okay, so I already told you about that alert. It tells you when you're within a certain distance of a species you want to see. A little bit more on data analysis on the tab called Science. And they continue to do all kinds of things over here. Just show you the page. Download eBird products. There's certain things that are very cool. I'm going to show you a couple of them. There's some conservation stories. There's modeling, projects, publications, and bird visualization. And I'll show you some bird viz here in a minute. So there's a bunch of stuff there, and a lot of this is just being developed and is on the kind of more on the science end of things, sort of the exploratory scientific side of data analysis. So look at this. This is 110 species through the year migrating from where they are in South America. This is the centroid of their distribution, the center of the distribution. Here we are, June, July. Here they are, they're finishing up breeding. They're starting to come back down. August, September, October, bombing back. This is probably a barn swallow right here. So at the end of the year, they're back where they started. And so here it goes again. So these are some of the visualizations they can do now with the data. And, you know, it's wow. It's wow factor stuff. But these are the sorts of things you can maybe use when you're trying to get more funding for eBird, or when you're trying to impress a very high-level government official who's only got 30 seconds for you. And you just go, look at the cool stuff we're doing, and you go, wow, bang. You know, I think that's is useful. Maybe, well, you can think of other educational purposes for doing these sorts of visualizations. So they keep working on them. I got another one that's pretty cool. This is the magnolia warbler. Here's the calendar up here, ticking here. So here they are wintering in the Yucatan, down into Guatemala, Belize. Now watch, when they start moving north, bam, they just explode in the middle of May, June, July 4th. They're breeding, they're hanging around up north, August, they're still hanging around. Then August 29th, bam, we're out of here, back to the winter range. So these are the sorts of data that really show up in those bar graphs that I was showing. That, so when we look, one of the talks I do, I think it's in May. Well, I do it several times a year up at Foothills, just showing those bar graphs. You can see this bang point right here where our black-headed grosbeaks and Bullock's orioles and western tanagers, lazuli bunnings, they like all come just over just a few days. It's very, very steep. They're not here, and then bam, they're here. And then in the fall, it's a little less dramatic, but they leave on a fairly steep curve as well, especially for these neotropical migrants that are getting completely way, way out of the U.S. So another really cool visualization. In the east, in the Midwest, everybody's really focused. Wood thrush is a really important species. It's a neotropical migrant that's been declining pretty severely. And this just shows this kind of range maps I hope we're going to start seeing. And this is just really a still out of that previous graphic. The kind of range maps that we could do with the eBird data. You know, we're used to having these flat, you know, here's where they breed, here's where they winter, and that's great. And this is very updated from All About Birds. That's really great. But we know in reality, it's a much more subtly textured distribution. So you got lots and lots of wood thrushes here, all through the Appalachians, some birds over here in the Ozarks, here along the Wisconsin or Mississippi River, kind of scattered around Michigan. But it gives you some depth to those range maps. And I'm actually a little surprised that we haven't seen this kind of range map in one of our field guides yet. I think it just adds more information for us as birders when we're out in the field. A few more slides. Macaulay Library. I couldn't find the Macaulay Library to save my life the other day. It's like, where's the Macaulay Library? Besides searching for it. Actually, if you click on the eBird logo itself, it sends you to this page. And there's always a cool bird from somewhere in the world here to just look at and, you know, use up 5 or 10 minutes of your time as you try to figure out what it is and listen to its songs and everything it does. But if you scroll down, then you get to the latest pictures from all around the world that are in the Macaulay Library. Here's the latest sound clips from all over the world. Striped cuckoo, Savannah nightjar, pine siskin. Huh, okay. So it doesn't have to be exotic to be in there. These all look pretty exotic. And then if you go up here and click on that, then you actually get to the Macaulay Library. So I got to tell Brian he needs a better link. And when you go in here, then you have access to the library. It's always a big search bar at the top. And so they've got 6.5 million media, and that's photos and audio clips and videos. Looks like nothing added this month, but they do have videos in there. So you can't upload videos to eBird, but they're in the library. And notice that there's not only birds, we've got mammals, arthropods, amphibians, fish, reptiles. And you can, if you just want to get some pictures or listen to a blue, whatever it is, you can go in there. And they have probably one contest a year where they ask people to upload, like this month, upload videos and audio clips to the library. So they're building the library constantly. And they don't always have to be great photos. You know, if you get a photo of a bird in an unusual posture or kind of bad lighting, it's kind of a challenge bird, a puzzle bird, that's okay too. You know, it helps people get every sort of look at these species. I plunked in dusky flycatcher just sort of at random to see what there was. So you can see these aren't necessarily great photos, but if you want to practice dusky flycatcher, that's a good one right there. So here's pictures, here's audio files, and here's even a photo of somebody's notes about the lower mandible and the length of the feathers. So who knows what all's in there? It's a rich resource. Oh, this is a good little bit. Just a few more minutes. I just stumbled on this. I didn't really know about this. Record with smartphones. So go check this out, since everybody, absolutely everybody has a smartphone these days. Everybody but one. But if you're carrying your smartphone and you're doing all your bird stuff on your mobile app, you might as well know how to record. So there's a little story about that. And the short version is the recording software on your phone compresses, so you don't want that. There are a number of free audio recording apps, and I downloaded one from RODE. I think that's one you have, Tom. It's one of the companies, RODE, right? A little app that will record without compressing. And if you go down a little farther on this page, you'll see they don't even recommend using a microphone. The mics on the new phones are so good, just aim the mic at the bird using the app and get your little song, add it to your eBird list, and win a pair of binoculars. I mean, make science better. Okay, lastly, Merlin, helping people ID things. I already showed you that if right when you're entering a checklist on your mobile device, if you click Merlin, you can see that species and make sure that it's a Canada goose, in case you can't remember what they look like or sound like. If you go to this first one, Start Bird ID, and I tried this on a number of birds. It seems to work pretty well around here. It just asks you a bunch of questions. When did you see it? Where did you see it? How big is it? What were the main colors up to 3? And where was it? There's like 6 choices. And then it comes back with a list of photos and says, was this your bird? So I tried it on pine, siskin, robin, great blue heron, osprey, I don't know, a bunch of birds like that we see around. It got every one of them. So that's pretty cool. I don't suspect it'll get everything, but it seems to be pretty good so far. And then over here, get photo ID. And this is the beta version, so I'm not sure where it's at right now. Same sort of thing, though. You get a photo, and that's an awfully good photo. Maybe your photo's not going to always be so good. Get in there, draw a box around it, click on the bill tip, click on the eye, click on the tail tip, and then go next, and it'll say, how about these? And again, this is my bird, this is not my bird. And then it's training the robot behind all this to get smarter and smarter. So I think this is about the last slide. I just wanted to point out, as always, there is a Facebook page. Not only should you visit the Idaho Birding Facebook page if you haven't been there. It's a lot of great photos every day. Tom Carroll over here. Tom, you want to raise your hand in case I didn't? Tom is the keeper and the manager. People are just posting that like crazy every day. And some quiz birds, like, what's this? And just some great photos from around the area. So this is simply to point out there's also an eBird Facebook page, which should surprise no one. And you can go and just kind of see what the chatter is or what's going on in that way. Lastly, this is a lot of data. I love it. I think the science is amazing, but don't forget that, in my mind, the main thing about birds is get out, see them, enjoy them, share the enjoyment with others, and have a good time outdoors with birds. And if you can throw some data into the global database while you're doing it, it's better, it's good, it's cool, but the main thing is these guys. They're the reason I think we go out there. Go eBird. Thank you.